what would be the first area that you would at least say investigate as a potential area for low-hanging fruit in terms of fixing sleep?
Honestly, electric devices.
Right
now, this is the first thing that I would be looking at. I'm not even going to look at exercising. I'm not even going to be looking at any sort of eating habits. I would be looking at how much time you spend on your phone on a day. When do you disconnect from your phone before you go to bed?
Alphas, welcome back to the show. My name is Andy Naylor. I am founder and CEO here at Naylor Body Design and host of your Optimal Alpha podcast. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, and if you're listening to this on a regular podcast streaming service, go to YouTube, look for the link in the show notes, and you'll get to see my pretty face if you really wanted to. Today, we are joined by Agnes Kiss. She is a fellow Dubai resident, fellow business owner, and fellow fitness enthusiast. We are delighted to have her here on the show. Agnes, welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for having me.
You are more than welcome. So today we have decided to sort of get together and discuss common elements between the client base that we work with. And just for everybody listening, we work with a similar demographic of clients, which is essentially busy business leader person. So at Naylor Body Design, we work predominantly with males, C-suite, VPs, entrepreneurs, business owners, etc. And my understanding is that you work with generally females. Well, actually, no, females. Specifically females, right? And lawyers, but again, also busy business leaders. We already know that there are a lot of similarities, differences as well, but a lot of similarities between those demographics. So we thought, let's get on a podcast and let's discuss some of those things. Now, there's, of course, a gazillion things that we could cover and rabbit holes that we could go down. But for today, we've decided to choose two main overarching topics which we think really covers across both demographics. One of those being sleep, one of those being stress. Any preference which one of those we dive down first?
Sleep. Let's start with sleep.
Right, let's go with sleep. So, well, let's start with looking into your client base. And given the type of people that they are, and they're all in the States, correct? Pretty much, roughly
speaking? Correct, yeah.
Okay. So do your client base, do they struggle with sleep? Is it an area that you think across the board is something that they are concerned about, they struggle with, they don't know what good sleep even might be? Like, how does that sort of come across from your side?
I think it's, again, it's going to differ from one to another. But when we look at sleep, we don't just look at sleep as, okay, I sleep 6 hours or 7 hours. We look at sleep as, do you fall asleep easily? Do you wake up during the night? When you wake up, what do you do? Do you just use the bathroom? Do you go on your phone? Do you check your emails? I think there was a study done, like 70% of US people would check their phone in the middle of the night if they wake up.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be looking at, if you do wake up during the night, do you go back to sleep? What do we do to get you back to sleep the fastest we can? And then we're also going to be looking at us, when you wake up in the morning, how do you feel? Do you feel rested? Do you feel ready for the day? Do you just a person who snoozes the alarm from one to another and, 3 hours later, you're like, oh my God, now I'm late from everywhere. So there's different areas of the sleep we would want to be looking at rather than just I sleep 6 hours.
Yeah. And that's what most people will say. So, I sleep quite well. I get like 7 hours a night. And it's like, well, first of all, okay, but what does that then look like? And you've obviously broken that down into areas. And I do the same thing on a consultation where I'm like, okay, let's cover sleep, and I've got a few quick questions to ask here. And the first one is how many hours do you get? Then it's on a scale of, say, 1 to 10, how well do you think you fall asleep? How well do you think you stay asleep? And how amazing do you feel in the morning? And most of the time, one, if not multiple of those areas will be low, broken. And that's nobody's fault. That's just life of a busy person. But then also maybe not having a clear understanding of what things people are doing during the day that negatively impact sleep. Now, of those areas, hours of sleep, ease of falling asleep, staying asleep, and how people feel in the morning, would you say that you've noticed that one, there's obviously no wrong answer to this, but would you say that you've noticed one or more of those areas being a common thread of an issue? So, for example, busy business, lawyers specifically, because of the things that they're dealing with, and maybe even it depends on, I guess, what they're lawyering. That's not the right word. What they're working on. If it's like, if it's corporate stuff, I imagine, it's maybe not so personal. But if someone's a lawyer and it's more personal based things, I can imagine there's a more emotion involved in that, which humans tend to carry around. Not baggage isn't the right word, but we tend to carry it with us. Therefore, then meaning that it could be very difficult to get to sleep, because they're like, like all these things weighing on them. But out of those areas, do you find that there's a common thread of an area that the women that you work with struggle with?
So I think the falling asleep part is not their problem, because they're exhausted by the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know, like if when they get home, they're not necessarily going to be staying up very, very late. Now again, we're coming, it's not necessarily the sleep, but what is your bedtime routine? What time do you eat your last meal? Are you using your phone? Are you still on your emails? I like to break down for myself and also for my clients, bedroom is not for your phone. Bedroom is to connect with your husband. Bedroom is to
sleep.
Sleep, genuinely to sleep. Mm-hmm. And you shouldn't be taking your phone to the bedroom. And, many people are like, oh, but I put my alarm on. Buy for $10 an alarm clock.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to take your phone to bed for that, because we know it. If you open up your phone before you go to sleep, you're going to be there for half an hour, minimum. And you just realize, oh my God, there's another half an hour left from my sleep. So this falling asleep part, I wouldn't say is the biggest problem. I think it's the waking up in the middle of the night for my clients is the biggest problem.
And so they're waking up and then... So this is one thing to be fair, this is one thing I've never really done myself, which is get up and look at my phone in the middle of the night. My phone is there with me on airplane mode. It doesn't even need to be, because I don't even use an alarm. I actually use it for white noise to help me fall asleep. But I've never really got into a habit of checking my phone. I can't imagine anything worse than waking up in the middle of the night and blinding my eyes by blue backlit light, which is about the worst thing that we could possibly do. But then also not just the having light hitting my eyes, which is sending only one signal to the brain, which is daylight, time to get up and wake up. Like that's so no wonder someone can't go back to. But it's also what someone's looking at, whatever content. I would imagine we can probably all attest to this. We look at social media. Within a 10-minute scroll of social media, how many things do we see that we are annoyed on, upset on, triggered by? So then it's like the worst possible thing to do. But you find that the people you work with, are they doing this quite a lot? Are they checking? What are they doing? Checking emails, checking social media?
Emails and news. I wouldn't
okay.
necessarily say social media, not for the type of clients I work with. Yeah. Of course, they will be on it, but if in the middle of the night, there's going to be emails and there's going to be news.
That's so interesting. And it's as if it's a normal thing. Like we know now in the day and age, it's normal. But what are they going to do with the information that they're taking in at that time of night? Like nothing productive, right? So, okay, so they're waking up, which is a natural thing to do, because some people say, I wake up for a bathroom break. I'm like, well, most humans do. I think that's completely normal. In fact, if someone didn't, I would question whether they're drinking enough water through the day, right? So someone's waking up, maybe going bathroom, coming back, and then sitting there and staring at phone. How long do you think people truthfully are then looking at their phone before... 20 minutes, half an hour?
I think some people can be for hours as well. I genuinely think the minimum would be about half an hour.
Minimum? I believe.
Wow. And I believe that they could be on their phone for hours.
Have you ever been through a phase where you've looked... No, I personally never have. I couldn't imagine anything more disruptive. I wonder whether people do it as I'll just look at my phone because it will help me fall asleep. It's the same as people will watch telly to the point where they'll fall, if they've got a telly in their bedroom, which I think is possibly one of the worst things you can possibly do. When we grow up and we're teenagers and we don't ever leave our bedroom, we have everything in that room and we treat that room as if it's our whole house inside one room, which is normal. So we would have entertainment in that room, right? Well, there should only be one type of entertainment happening in a bedroom, and that's a topic for a different podcast. But having a TV in there that someone then watches all the way to falling asleep, I think is possibly one of the worst ideas. It's no better than picking up a phone in the middle of the night. How then are your clients feeling when they wake up in the morning? I mean, are they groggy, sluggish, tired, like just not wanting to get up? Is there a connection, do you think, in their minds between what's happening in the night and waking up?
I mean, just imagine this. You wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning. You're going to be on your phone, scrolling, looking at the news. Your anxiety, your stress is over the roof. You're possibly not going to fall back to sleep for 2 or even like 2:30 in the morning. How can you feel fresh at 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
But I would lead this back to the moment we start looking at eating habits, the moment we start looking at a training routine. And it doesn't mean hours and hours at the gym. It means 3 times a week for 20 minutes in the comfort of your own living room. When we're looking at, moving your body, when we're looking at your last meal, when we're also going to be looking at you're going to stop using your phone 2 hours before you go to bed, your sleep all of a sudden just becomes easier.
Better. And I think something you said there at the beginning, which is your clients, and this would be something I would say our clients are the same, most of the time getting to sleep isn't the problem, but it's not because of what we would call great sleep hygiene, and that's just basically a fancy terminology for actions being taken through the day that are designed to lead to great quality sleep. Like, you just call it sleep hygiene, and the idea of not looking at devices before bed and things like that. It's not that they've got those things down, it's just that they're shattered by the end of the day. So, busy people get to the end of the day, they're mentally drained because they're making more than likely high level decisions. And at the end of the day, we've only got so many high level decisions we can all make in a day. There's only so many of those. And generally what you will know this is, being a business owner, like, we'll normally get to a point where we've made just one or two too many. And it's like, I just can't think straight. I know I'll get to a point where I can think, I get to the back end of my day, and Jo, my wife, who's in literally a different country at this particular point, she will come and ask me a very simple question, and I'm like, I don't know. She's like, what do you mean you don't know? I'm like, it's now 9 p.m. for me. I've made that many decisions today. I can't actually now focus on, I can't think. So I'm shattered. But then what's happening with our clients is they're getting into bed and just falling asleep. Sometimes falling asleep so fast, and which is something that we would call, technical term, latency, which is how quickly someone falls asleep. It's actually, someone said to me on a consultation yesterday, oh yeah, I fall asleep in seconds. And I was like, okay.
That's great.
Well, so my and actually the person went on to say, I could actually put my head down and fall asleep at any point, anywhere. And I said, do you realise that's not good? Like, that's technically a problem. Correct me, is that nearly narcolepsy? Is that like just falling asleep at any particular point? I maybe got my terminologies wrong. I don't know. But there's an ideal amount. Like, I know my Oura ring, if I fall asleep relatively quick, and sometimes it will give me a red marker as if I've fallen asleep too fast, as in literally within, I don't think someone should be falling asleep inside 2 to 3 minutes. It needs to be the other side of that, otherwise it's too quick. And I do wonder sometimes, and I think to some of our clients who are busy, they often say, I'm asleep before my head hits the pillow. I'm like, yeah, I get it. That probably feels quite good at the end of the day. I think then what it leads to is irregular rhythms or cycles of sleep through the night because of how quickly. I think it also probably impacts true deep sleep when someone falls asleep immediately. Let's delve in a little bit. So we know that sleep is important. We know that the type of people that we work with struggle with it. Someone comes to you, and let's just say outright, their sleep is a mess. No one particular part of it worse than anything else, but it's just poor. And they are aware and conscious that it's having a negative impact into their life. And we would know that it would be impacting stress, it would be impacting emotions, hormone regulation, fat loss, the list goes on. What would be the first area that you would at least say investigate as a potential area for low-hanging fruit in terms of fixing sleep?
Honestly, electric devices.
Right
now, this is the first thing that I would be looking at. I'm not even going to look at exercising. I'm not even going to be looking at any sort of eating habits. I would be looking at how much time you spend on your phone on a day. And again, because we come from the same environment we run a business pretty much through our laptop, iPad, phone, whatever. But I would be looking at, when do you disconnect from your phone before you go to bed? That is the first thing I would look at.
And then the question is not when, it's like if you disconnect. But that's the first question there, is it's actually if someone does disconnect.
It's crazy, but this 5 Resets, the book that I'm reading, and this lady's talking about a lot about disconnecting from your phone and how long before you go to sleep you actually use your phone last time.
What would you say? So for you, when do you disconnect from your phone? And if you do, when? Well, first of all, before reading the book, because I imagine if you're now reading a book that's specific on this, so you probably made some changes. So let's rewind slightly. So go back a couple of months or something, I don't know, until before you're reading this book. Obviously, you already know that it's important, and I already imagine that you've got good habits in place. However, what do you have a rule for yourself in terms of when, like, that's it, from this particular point, I'm not looking at devices, phones, laptops. When's that point in the day for you? 9 p.m. Okay. So quite late then, right? Technically.
It's technically late. So depends on my course. And I think you're going to be the same, because US and Dubai has a big difference in between.
So if you're on client calls, consultation calls that are naturally later on in the day, so you're classing, of course, they're looking at your PC as looking at a device. Yeah. Not necessarily phone doom scrolling through social media. Okay, so take away, just differentiate between those. Let's say you've got calls and that's work related, and not that there's an excuse, but it's part and parcel of given the fact that we live in Dubai and we work with people the other side of the world. Let's just look at, say, social media doom scrolling. In other words, I don't want to say the pointless habit of just going through social media. I mean, because we could easily sit there and go, oh, I'm researching content.
Yeah.
It's easy to make up an argument or an excuse. So using the laptop to one side and just looking at, say, doom scrolling on social media, when would be your cut off for that?
9.
Oh,
so
okay.
I have an alarm on my phone, 20:59, that it's bedtime.
Yep.
So it's 9 o'clock. So it's bedtime, put my phone away, have my last shower or before I go to bed, and grab my book, and then hoping to...
so you get a bit of proper reading in.
Before
so
I
how
go to
long?
bed.
So how long? Is it about an hour?
It really depends. Some days 10 minutes, some days 45 minutes.
Of reading?
It really depends on how tired I
So
am.
9 o'clock though, and then let's say what you sleep by 10?
So 9 o'clock, cut off from also all devices.
Yeah.
And then shower, bit of skincare and all that kind of stuff. But I would be in bed by like 9:25.
Okay.
And then
Read.
possibly fall asleep by 10 to 9 or 10 to 10.
Okay. Yeah, technically that's quite close, I would think. So we had a rule, I think my coaches still use this, which was 3-2-1.
I know, 3-2-1.
So, which is not an uncommon thing. Like I certainly, we certainly didn't make this up. Like much smarter people come up with this stuff way before us, which is the idea of don't eat anything 3 hours before, don't drink anything 2 hours before, no screens 1 hour before. So you're adhering to that basically anyway, aren't you?
Kind of. But it's really, and I don't want to use this as an excuse, but because of the nature of my business and because of my clients, I can't really disconnect from my phone before 9 o'clock, because it means it's 6 o'clock in the UK, and that's somewhere, 1 o'clock in the afternoon for US clients.
Of course,
So I physically cannot finish working before that.
Have you ever used, so if you're using, say, a device right up to go, do you use blue blocking glasses?
Yeah.
Have you ever,
So blue blocker glasses, and also all on my devices from, I think 5 o'clock actually
they got like
in the
True
afternoon.
Tone or something? They change,
Yeah.
So they take sort of the glare off the back of them. Yeah. Okay. So devices. So we know that devices are one of those big things. So both leading up to going to sleep, and just to sort of be a little bit specific, my understanding of one of the reasons, the blue backlit light that comes out of these really has a negative impact on our melatonin production. Melatonin being, certainly one of the sleep hormones that allows us to get to sleep, stay asleep, and it's a natural part. So people will often, one of the first supplements people will take if they're really looking to try and optimize their sleep will be melatonin. Now, what's interesting, normally if I take melatonin, I can't stay asleep. I've taken it as a standalone supplement, and I've noticed that weirdly I will wake up. There are certain sleep-based supplements that if I take, they seem to actually have the opposite effect to me. I don't know why, but we would certainly know that blue backlit devices, that's one of the main things. And also the triggering aspect of, say, we see something on social media. I know I've trained, my social media is trained in a number of funny ways. So one of them is my shark attacks. I've got a social media account that just wants to show me shark attacks. That turned into crocodiles, and then I've got another one that just shows me dogs and puppies. And actually, there's some relevance in this because I'm an animal lover, and when I get to a point where I don't need to work, hopefully if that happens at some particular point, I would devote my time to looking after animals, particularly dogs. Like I would volunteer my time. Yeah, I wouldn't volunteer my time to look after sharks. How would you do that with a pet shark? I mean, does the shark want you there? No, probably not.
I'm not sure.
No, anyway. But one of the things you'll see on social media is obviously lots of nice animal-based stuff, and every now and again a really sad tale and it's as if it's made to be the most horrific things you see that day, and it'll be something where an animal a dog particularly has been mistreated, and it's the state it's in, and I find that quite difficult to watch. Being a dog owner, having dogs, it does trigger me. If I were to see that just before I went to bed, I don't know if unconsciously it's somewhere sat in your mind. So anyway, so we know that. Not going on too much of a tangent of devices, that would be the first thing. What would be next? I'm
debating between food and training. And by meaning food is, when is your last meal before you go to bed? And what do you have at the last meal before you go to bed? And not necessarily like you eat and go to bed, but I don't work very well if I eat too late and if I eat too much too close to my bedtime.
Okay. Yep.
And I have nightmares. I can't really sleep. I can't really fall asleep. Yeah.
Has that much of an effect on you?
Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
And I've always been like this, even when I was a little girl.
So you've Okay, so you've trained yourself to have, well, literally we were talking about this, like I've nearly done the opposite, which is train myself to want to eat as close to going to bed as possible, which is a really bad thing because I go to bed having done none of the mechanical digestion work, which of course massively, what I think it does is, one, I wake up still feeling undigested, but I can actually look at the quality and the percentage of my deep sleep, and it's poor. And so if you were to eat a meal, no matter what, let's say a protein shake. So let's say you would have like a protein shake would you still do you still feel that you'd get a negative impact from that?
Oh, no. But
so we're talking about a digestive based meal, yeah.
But I would have my last meal about 6:37. That would my last meal be, and I know I'm kind of getting ready for bed at 9, and then after
you've got a good 3 hours of digestion, haven't you?
Yeah. And I have to do it. Otherwise, I know I wouldn't be able to, one, have a good sleep, and two, fall asleep even, and then my quality sleep is not going to be very great.
And have you experimented with what that meal contains and whether that makes a difference? Because there's something that I found going through prep, which I'll say afterwards, of something that goes against one of the biggest myths in terms of a particular macronutrients timing that I found to be really beneficial to me. So I know what your final meal is. It's the sort of yogurt bowl based meal.
Yeah.
Has it ever been anything? Well, what has it been if it's been something different?
Okay, if I'm gonna go back into prep, I had an oatmeal before I was going to sleep.
Same.
To have a better sleep, yeah.
Yeah, I found exactly the same. I only just changed this recently because of digestive issues. But I found that we talked about this on another episode, which is the sort of fear of missing out. So I would save a really nice meal for my last meal, and it would be oats with whey, with berries, with dark chocolate, loads of salt. One, because I was so lean at the time, I'd go really vascular. I'd be like, oh God. But also, it would make me really sleepy, so I would go to sleep really easy. But you mentioned that to someone who's maybe just trying to walk their own way through dieting, protocols, things like that. It's like, well, hang on a minute. But that's carbs after 6 p.m. They're literally going to make me fat because the carb fairies come out and they literally take those carbs and just shove it straight on my hips, which of course we know is not the case. So I think the eating things, I think it's really important, and it's a lesson that I'm having to relearn at the moment because I eat really late. Yes, I could have the excuse that it's after consultation calls and things like that, but ultimately it's my own fault and I need to adjust where that meal goes, and that's work in progress.
Alphas, I interrupt this show with a simple message. This show is here to benefit you and your progression to the best version of yourself. But not only just you, it's also here to benefit the people around you, your loved ones, your friends, other alphas in your vicinity. So why not do a really cool thing today? Something that I would thank you for, and maybe someone else would. Share this podcast with at least one other alpha out there who you know would benefit from it. Why not share the information, share the ability for someone else to grow? I'm sure they would thank you. I 100% would absolutely thank you. This podcast only grows by our listeners, our followers doing amazing things like giving us 5-star reviews, downloading podcasts, subscribing, and then of course sharing it with other people. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Share it with one person, and of course drop us a 5-star review, download the podcast, and of course subscribe. And now back to the show.
We're talking, of course, about, particularly with sleep, things we're now considering at the back end of the day. Let's consider what happens first thing in the morning. What might you, if someone's got, say, because I've always thought that the quality of the sleep at the end of the day starts by what we do first, can potentially start by what we do first thing in the morning. What might you have a client do, again, if they're trying to optimize their day, their performance, their energy, their stress, their sleep? Are there any actions, habits, behaviors that you might have someone adopt from the moment that they wake up that would have a cumulative positive effect later on into the day?
Okay, so this is, again, I'm going to go back to devices. Most people will look at their phone first thing in the morning. And it's not even looking at your phone first thing in the morning and already having this whole flashy everything into your brain. But the second thing is that you scroll there for 20-30 minutes, which could be a time for your workout, which later on in the day will be a big impact on your sleep, on your performance, and how you're genuinely feeling. And then not even mentioning, if you do this for 3 years, looking at your phone first thing in the morning, or you're not looking at your phone first thing in the morning, you're using that 20 minutes to 30 minutes every single morning that you, maybe not every morning, but 2 to 3 times a week, You're actually putting an exercise in. How is that going to impact you in 3 years' time? Or how is being on your phone going to impact you in 3 years' time?
So I know still one of the first things I do is get up and look at my phone. And I know that it's possibly one of the worst things. But then I also I wake up at 5 o'clock. I'm out the door by 6. I'm in the gym every like so. But one of the first things I do, and the reason I do that is I go to bed at 9, half 9 my time. My team carry on working for another 6, 7, 8 hours. So there's so much that's happened inside the business over that time that I can't not want to update myself as soon as possible. Could I wait a few hours and would it make a difference? Yeah. Like I never really wake up and there's any fires and any things that I particularly need to deal with. But the curiosity of how did things go? You know, what calls were taking place? And so I will look, but really, I guess I'm looking for we use a particular communication system inside the business, and I go into that and I'm just looking for headlines. I'm just looking for anything that was either really good, really bad, stuff that I need to know about. And if I don't find one of those, I'm out. But it is something I do nearly still first thing in the morning, yeah.
But you catching up, not necessarily catching up, but updating yourself on your own business, or you going to social media and start scrolling and comparing yourself to other people, I think there's a big difference.
I don't start looking... I mean, first of all, I don't really look at social media a lot anymore. I don't spend a lot of time. I go there looking for information. I have a team that work on there a lot, and I've built that and worked very hard at that, and I'm very lucky to have the people that we've got. I look at Facebook like, what? I mean, I literally open the app once a week. I look at it and I'm like, I'll come straight back out again. The thing that I probably look at most, probably like most people, is probably Instagram, because one, the way the content is presented, the stories and things like that, it's just a very easy platform to spend time on. But I don't look at that until I probably left the gym, I would have thought. I couldn't imagine getting up and sitting and sort of just dooms. Yeah. That's such an unhealthy habit, but it's one that's obviously so common. And I think when we come back to, does it impact sleep? Well, it has to, doesn't it? If we wake up and immediately we're bombarded with triggering things, I'm not good enough for this, and I'm not good enough for that, and so and so's done this, and so on. Like that, that mindset then carries on into lots of decisions through the day, which then has to negatively impact sleep at the back end of the day. Do you think?
And I think it's also spending that 30 minutes, making yourself a healthy breakfast, actually having a breakfast to go with you, having to do some exercise and getting ready for the day will have a massive impact on the day. Because how many people do you know, and even clients I work with, wakes up 10 minutes before they need to leave the door. No breakfast.
Yeah. Rush out the door, stressed already at the beginning of the day. Yeah.
The first thing that you're doing is stressing in the morning.
Yeah.
And then if you start looking at your phone, that's again just like golden ticket for you to have for the day, because you're not going to have anything. You're not going to control the day because you're not getting up in time. And even if you are getting up in time, you're spending your time. I can't remember, I think Mel Robbins said something about, imagine you going on social media first thing in the morning is like letting whatever thousands or millions of followers you have, everyone coming to see you in your bedroom. Would you do that?
Yeah.
Would you be happy to do that? I certainly wouldn't be happy to even like a person, never mind thousands of people coming in. But she was really right.
Yeah.
And this is...
I was good. So if you were to take away that, the potential of someone getting straight onto social media, then if someone's going to be successful, it needs to be replaced with something. And this is, I think, one thing where people possibly struggle, which is, okay, you can't do this anymore. You can't stare at your phone at night. So then rather than just being a weird void that someone can't fill, what would then be, say, the best 30 minutes after waking set of habits or behaviors that you could put in someone's life that would not only just start their day well, but actually probably set them up for a better end of day in terms of getting to sleep and having good sleep in there? What little tactics do you kind of use?
Well, I don't know if it's like really the first thing that is going to impact the last part of your day, but since I was a little girl, the first thing that you do is you make your bed.
Okay.
I know this sounds really, for some people, it's a bit simple, but you make your bed in the morning when you wake up. For me, it's a first task that's already completed. Because
apparently, I think it's an Admiral that said, no matter then how bad your day's gone, you're coming back to a nicely, freshly made bed. There's something, it's like one of the most base level habits that if you get that right, how many more things on top, could you do from there on? Okay, so that first habit, make your bed.
Just make your bed. Yep. And it's not even the making the bed, it's you already have done something. Mm-hmm. I personally have a quick shower. It doesn't have to be a cold shower if you don't want to. So I go through the periods when I try to have a cold shower. I can't do it at Hungary. I can't do it in Hungary. I just can't. Here I can. Differs, okay? But I don't want to say cold shower. Just have have a shower, just refresh myself and get ready for the day. And again, like depends on the person if you're going to be training fasted or if you don't want to be training fasted, but have a breakfast either at your own comfort of your home or take it with you to work.
Yeah.
If you're someone who cannot exercise after work because you're exhausted and you know that you have no energy left, you have no other choice than exercise in the morning.
Sure.
And if you're exercising in the morning, that's going to be positively affecting you, impacting you throughout the day. One, I have great energy after I work out.
Yep.
These are my peak hours. The moment I get home from, the gym, I don't know, whatever, 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8:30, whatever the time is, for the next 3-4 hours, these are the peak hours when I'm
Is it
really
when you're most creative and stuff like that? Yeah.
Seriously, this is the best time for me to work on the things that I would possibly procrastinate on in the afternoon because I have no brain for it.
Yep.
So maybe it's not exactly the same for everyone, but I truly believe by moving your body in the morning, even if it's just 15 minutes power walk, will have an impact on your brain work after.
Yeah.
And then also throughout the day, you will get more tired before you go to bed. And some of my clients are like, I can't really keep my eyes open after 8 o'clock. What do you want to do after 8 o'clock?
Then go bed.
Go to sleep.
Yeah, go to sleep. Yeah. It's as if when you're young, staying up late is like you want to stay up later and later and later. Weirdly, the older I've got, and I'm now. It's not that I want to go to bed earlier and earlier and earlier, but it's very rare. I would be falling asleep past 10. It's somewhere between 9:30. Normally somewhere in and around there. Like I have no desire to really, it's like staying up till 10, 11. If I was to do that, I know that I would be wrecking my sleep. I only get about 5 to 6 hours as it is because for some reason I seem to want to wake up from 3 to 4 a.m. in the morning, which is horrific. But so I think some of the things that we're talking about the morning. I think one of the first things that I tend to do is try and get in light straight away as soon as possible. So we would talk about removing light at the end of the day. I think one of the best things we can do first thing in the morning is get in light. Generally speaking, natural light, like sunlight. Now, we're lucky because we live in a very sunny place most of the time, although storms expected very soon. But we live in a very sunny place. That's not a lot of the world. But I think technically any light, because all that's doing, I believe, if we were to get up in the morning at a regular wake time, that's the first thing, right? Actually thinking about it.
Yeah.
Regular wake sleep time. If we really want to set quality sleep in place, it's regular wake and sleep time, and that being the same week and weekend. Yeah. So in the same way that people have they do food differences across weekdays, weekends, and generally what people do is they lay in Saturday, Sunday, because they deserve it, but then their circadian rhythm of those 2 days will shift ever so slightly by half an hour. So then, of course, waking up on Monday morning to go to work is a massive drag, isn't it? So a regular wake time, and normally that can be book-ended, so to speak, by light.
Yeah.
So light going down at the end of the day and light being up. So that's one of the first things I think is important. And then one of the other simple things is then not drinking caffeine or coffee too early.
So electrolytes to start your day with.
Water and electrolytes. Like the first thing I drink is actually peppermint tea and green tea together.
I
have that, or lemon and ginger tea, which is a ball ache to make, but sometimes I'll have that. And then generally the next thing I'm really drinking is sipping a pre-workout, which is caffeine too early, and I'm fully aware of that. But I get round this. I have a trick, which is basically just I get to nap later in the day, so I get to sleep off the caffeine later. But then it's electrolytes. Water and electrolytes, I think, is one of the most important things. People getting up and just having water. I think a lot of people are pretty good at that, though. Are your clients sort of good at hydrating first thing in the morning?
I think so. And I also, if you take any sort of supplements, whatever that might be, any vitamins, my clients would be taking some sort of vitamins in the morning. You would drink it with water, so it's, this is not even something that I was thinking about, because I'm like, but you're right, because hydration is super important, but you would genuinely hydrate if you're taking something in the morning already. So it's not something that you can kind of miss out on. Yeah. And then having some, sunlight or daylight. Many people using Lumi lamp. I don't know if you heard about it.
I've had one. I think.
Have you?
It was the idea that, so one, waking up to an abrupt sound, a random time, so let's say 5 a.m., 6 a.m., is one, very abrupt, because it's normally a do. Like, who wants to wake up to that noise?
I think it's great.
Do you?
Yeah, I really think. I'm a soldier. I need it.
But if you're like, you've got a sleep cycle that we're going around, and it's maybe 45 minutes to maybe an hour and 20. Like for me, like it nearly is bang on an hour. Well, let's say I'm at the bottom of that sleep cycle, so I'm half an hour into a sleep cycle, and that alarm goes off. You're going to wake up really groggy because you're in the wrong part of a sleep cycle. So an arbitrary wake up time set by an alarm, unless you've trained yourself so well that that's just the top of your sleep cycle, which you won't really know. You'll just know if you wake up. Like what will normally happen is if I set an alarm, I'll wake up 2 minutes before it. And a lot of people will also know that if you go to bed thinking, generally this is quite a weird thing, you'll go to bed thinking, I need to be up tomorrow by X, Y, Z. Like your body will quite often wake you up.
Yeah,
I think
true.
if you're in tune with sleep and circadian rhythms, you can nearly talk yourself into waking up. It's one of those things where I know, let's say I've got to wake up and I'm going to get a flight somewhere.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
gosh. Yeah.
I will set 3 or 4 alarms and I won't need one of them. I'll have got up 20 minutes before the first one. I'll be in the shower and it's like, all these alarms start going off. And I'm like, damn, I didn't need any of those. So these Lumi lights, I think what they do is they start with no light, and over the course of 30 minutes, it's replicating rising sun, isn't it? So I think that's a really good way to wake up. Also, you can get there are some really cool mattresses that you can get, or even mattress toppers that actually wake you up through just slight vibration, which is again and it can do it actually set based on body temperature, like how much you're starting to already move.
That's great. I've never heard.
Yeah. It's also, I don't know the name of it. It's really cool because this, Matt, we're delving off into a subject I wanted to cover later on, but you can set the temperature that it's at when you go to sleep, because temperature is a massive thing for falling asleep. But also, most people warm up through the night, and this is one of the reasons they wake up. This is very true for me. I'm generally always hot, so I'll wake up hot in the night. But what it does is it actually will go down a degree or two and pull your body core temperature down and keep you asleep.
That's so cool.
I know.
I've never heard of it.
I can't remember who makes it. We've got a client who's got one, and I am.
Oh my god!
I'm going to be getting it. So. Yeah, but those lights I think can be particularly useful. While on the subject of mattresses and things like that, and talk about setting up the bedroom. Like, I have very specific views on the bedroom environment, and given that that's where we're supposed to be sleeping, what would be your do's and don'ts in terms of the setting up of a bedroom? Like, what should be there, what should be there, because I think there's some easy wins. There's like really easy wins in terms of the setting up of that environment. What would you suggest there?
I genuinely like a cold bedroom. Like, I need to set my bedroom pretty cold. But now I'm gonna kind of speak against everyone else. I don't like to make my bedroom pitch black.
Okay, you like some light.
I genuinely don't. I leave the curtains open or the blinds open, and I know in Hungary the sun would be coming up at like 4:20. I love waking up for the sun.
Yeah.
So I won't even need my alarm. Or even here now that the lights or the days are started to get a little bit earlier, I love it.
Yeah.
I genuinely...
Yeah, because you're then using, I imagine, the natural lightning outside, the luminance outside. That is you're using that to naturally start to wake you up, because your body's going to feel the light. Right?
Yes.
Like, I've said this to Joe. Like, I can feel light on my skin even if I can't see it.
Yeah.
So the amount of times I'll go to sleep and Joe will be reading a book and she'll have a bedside lamp on. I can say I've gone to bed slightly earlier and I've got a mask on, for my eyes. She can come in, make absolutely no noise, turn the light on, and I can feel the light on my skin.
Okay.
And she's like, no, you can't. I'm like, no, I can. Now, maybe I've talked myself into it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But technically, we are photosensitive.
Yeah.
Because there's no question around that. So I'm still imagining, the bedroom would get dark enough. There's not enough light coming in that would be disruptive to your sleep.
No, it's not like my bedroom would be light.
Yep.
It's just I don't use.
You don't need to black out.
Yes, I don't need to do any of that.
So light not the biggest concern for you, and obviously you're using the natural raising of the light outside as the sun comes up as a marker to your circadian rhythm. What else?
Temperature. I need a cold bedroom.
Yep.
I need definitely a cold bedroom. I don't think I'm using anything. I know some people are using the mask.
Yep.
You as well. I don't personally, I don't need it. But again, if I sleep before I go to bed, I do get tired. Like, I can feel, my eyes and my head is just kind of going to, I'm ready to sleep. And I just fall asleep easily.
Yep. You're lucky. I think a lot of the things I learned, maybe you'd got the same thing. A lot of the things I learned in terms of optimizing sleep came from being on a prep for a show.
Gosh.
Because sleep just degrades to being like feeling like you're sedated and not sleeping, when at that time you need sleep more than anything. And I think some of the, I don't want to say rules, but certainly things that we use is, one, generally speaking, having the room as dark as possible, colder than the rest of the house, absolutely zero electricals in there. Anything that's pulling in any kind of electrical, certainly charging phones, even the LEDs on clocks. I'm sure, and I cannot state this study, but I remember reading a study whereby it was a sleep study, a light-based sleep study, and they were shining LEDs weirdly onto the back of people's knees, which is why it's always stuck in my mind. And a difference could be seen in someone's sleep just by that. I don't know if it's just because that's a very photosensitive area of someone's body. I don't know. I've got no idea why it was that. So even LEDs, standby lights, like the body can pick up on those things. Certainly cooler. Eye masks I only use if I nap in the day, which I probably nap. At night time I don't use it. Don't need to. But in the day I would use an eye mask, and not one that like sits flat on my eyes, but one with like little rings, so like your eyes kind of like sat in the middle, not getting like, because the last thing you want to do is put an eye mask on. It's like, it feels like your eyeballs are being shoved into the back of your brain. And I think all of these little things stacked together. So someone could be using, I'm sure your clientele with maybe, husbands lying next to them, snoring their face off, and the poor women sitting there like not being able to get to sleep. So earbuds could be really useful. Yeah. All these things. I've always thought the idea of the bedroom should be like a cave. It should be like retreating back into the cave at the end of the day, which is again there for really only two things, one of them being sleeping.
And one thing that I know that I have a great sleep when it's raining outside.
So you sleep better if it's raining?
If it's raining outside,
That's interesting. Is it
and
the
I
noise?
think it's the noise.
Yeah.
I think it's the kind of like the white noise that comes with the, it's just like the water drops. That's how it's actually happening. So
we've covered sleep. We've delved into really some of the easy things that people can sort of go off and do, and things to be considered. I think one of the last things I'll sort of say here is, what then a lot of people then tend to do is get stressed over the fact that they're not sleeping. Although I think maybe on another podcast we'll dive into stress, because we didn't get time today because we've gone down enough rabbit holes in terms of sleep. But I think one of the last things I would say to anyone listening to this is, if your sleep is poor, don't actually worry and stress about it, because that isn't going to help in any way at all. Fix simple things. Do the things that you already know you should be doing, which is, as you've said, Agnes, staying away from blue backlit devices, not drinking too late into the day, trying to avoid alcohol as well, because it obviously has a massive impact, and then eating far enough away, which is obviously what I'm working on at the minute. And generally speaking, everything tends to sort of fall into place. Agnes, it has been an absolute pleasure. So for my listeners who want to go out and find out more about you, where can they, what the socials, what the social handles, where can they come and find you?
Okay, so name is Agnes Kiss, and on social media I run as KissFitness9.
Wonderful. Is that on all social media? So it's the same across them all? That's particularly Instagram, right?
Instagram.
Perfect.
KissFitness on TikTok, and Agnes Kiss Fitness on YouTube.
Awesome. So thank you very much, Alphas. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I will catch you next time. Agnes, thank you to you.
Yay.